We're live.
We're like la la la. It's been a long weekend. So again, Gwen,
Ode,
and this is Mara Evenstar, and she was the lady who taught the very first class I went to, which was on experiencing the triple goddess. And it was a moving class because she talked about all kinds of interesting things. But she's also a vendor here.
Mm-hmm.
And so tell us a little bit more about yourself,
your path,
the classes that you teach, and your store.
Okay.
Just tell us
everything.
Tell us everything.
Just tell us everything.
Let me start with the store because that's shorter.
Okay.
And that'll give me a chance to think about the other stuff.
Yeah.
So Evenstar's Chalice is a brick-and-mortar retail store in downtown Ypsilanti.
Okay.
And it is, some people would call it a metaphysical store or a spirit shop. And really what it is it's a store that supports people of all paths.
Nice.
And we really had the intention that the space itself be transformative.
Okay.
So whether or not anyone's shopping, just coming in, they can kind of just feel themselves open and take that deep breath and be surrounded by beauty and get inspired, so that's really what the store is about. And it's set up so we have different altars, and so you can walk in there and think, oh, cool eclectic home goods store, right? And then some people go in and they go, oh, altars, there's a little something more going on.
Yeah.
And then some people walk in and they go, portals. There's portals into places here. So it's a really magical place. I'm really excited that I call it an unexpected pregnancy. It was not in the plan.
Yep.
It happened.
Yeah.
And so we're in our second year. We have our second anniversary, the July 4th weekend.
Oh,
so
coming
up very soon.
Coming up very soon. Come and see us. We'll have sales. We're having aura photography, a little celebration, all that stuff.
And let me cut in real quick to say hi, QQ Ann.
Hi, QQ.
She's one of our regular listeners.
Yeah.
And we
been following the
streams.
streams.
She always says hello, follows the streams. Okay.
Hello.
So tell us this is Mara. And so tell us more about what you teach and about your understanding of the goddess.
Talk about that, but then also you were teaching a class when we were teaching a class, so we couldn't attend it. You were teaching the circle technology class. So talk about that also.
Okay.
Just maybe a brief overview of both those classes.
If you don't mind.
I do not mind. I think to talk about the classes, I need to talk a little bit about my path. So I am, it's hard to put the labels, but I consider myself a mystic, a non-dual mystic, a teacher, and a healer. And almost all of the workshops or whatever that I put together, they're designed to elicit experiences. They're designed to elicit deep connection for people to one another and to the divine. My academic background is in anthropology. My bachelor's degree was in anthropology.
My brother studies anthropology.
Cool. And comparative religions was very deep in there, so I've always been kind of following that line, right, of symbolism and spirit. And then my master's degree is in transpersonal psychology.
Interesting.
So it's psychology, and transpersonal is, trans means over, beyond, and through. So it's a form of psychology that also includes spirit and the transcendent.
Very cool.
So it's a very holistic form of psychology that includes these aspects of self.
Is that
a quick side note to Jackson, my son? Think about following that idea. That sounds cool. You're an anthropologist. I think it would vibe with you. Go ahead.
Would you say that transpersonal psychology is less medicalizing than conventional psychology?
Absolutely.
And it sounds like something that would really reach a place that, that isn't just about medication, but it's about really reaching into a person and helping them.
It's much less about pathologizing, right? And figuring out what the dis-ease is, and more treating of the whole person within the context of their groups and their families, within the context of the environments that they're in.
I love that.
Including their spirituality. And so often in transpersonal psychology, we're looking for what's working, and building on that. And coming into healing and wholeness.
Oh,
right? So there's a big focus on wholeness within that realm.
I like that.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, and then the doctorate that I'm working on is in leadership and social transformation.
Okay.
So there's this line of both individual and cultural, the collective, that runs through all of my work. And then I focus also on human development. So understanding how we grow, mature, and change. So all of that feeds into these
the
workshop
classes.
experiences and these classes, really with an aim to support our evolution, both as individuals and as a society, as a people. You know, I do think of myself as a cultural healer. You know, I kind of plug into where we are. We're programmed in a lot of different ways. So helping with deprogramming, unlearning.
I love that idea.
And
there's so much
direct
to
experience.
unlearn from the overculture and from our past.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and then the circle technology class is one that it's just really about teaching people new ways of coming together to collaborate, to heal together, to work together. I mean, I think we've done decades and decades of really figuring out how to do self-development and self-healing, but now let's figure out how to do it together.
Yeah.
And that's where, you know, a lot of things like how do you use the circle as a tool? How do you use what we know about being in circle and how that works and how that doesn't work as a tool to help do problem solving, to help, you know, with healing, to bringing things into wholeness. And so that's where this stuff comes from.
That's very cool. Are you planning to do any writing about your perspective of the goddess or your perspective of the circle as as you are teaching these classes, like either like on a blog or
Your master's
book,
thesis available.
you know, that kind of thing, to obviously to a wider mass audience to reach more people with this information.
I do blogging, and my husband's on me all the time. You got to be writing this stuff down.
Seriously, I agree with
You
him.
got to be writing this stuff down. Right now it's a time. You know, so we've got this business that's a toddler. You know, there's the academic pieces. I sit on the board of a local nonprofit called the Intentional Living Collective, which is really about kind of things I've been talking about. And on that, I'm also the director of a program called Conscious Rites, which is about bringing rite and ritual and ceremony into mainstream, bringing relevant, meaningful ritual into mainstream. So that's what I do. And then I'm also a founder of Sophia Unfolds, which is a group that's about empowering the divine feminine and the rise of the divine feminine. And so we do women's retreats and all this kind of stuff. So I've got my fingers
in
like
a lot of
things, and you know, sometimes it's just a matter of, you know, what's needed
how do you
today.
prioritize?
How do I respond today? Yeah, but the writing, yes, and I do enjoy writing. It'll come. It'll come.
I see Mariah.
Yeah, Mariah commented, I think about transpersonal psychology, that it sounds like it would also reach beyond or around the stigma that accompanies mental health issues.
Oh, absolutely. You know, one of the things that we talk about within that is we look at sometimes psychosis is really just spiritual emergency.
Yeah.
Right? It's really just you're going through this transformation or something is shifting and changing. And it's a person actually trying to come to wholeness, but things have gotten really out of balance. So you know, so things can get off balance. But absolutely, we look at it as a movement toward a natural response to trauma, or a natural response to things not being right and out of wholeness. And it's our body's way of survival. And so taking it from that point of view, rather than something's wrong with you, it's just like, no, this is a natural
because bodies and brains often take extreme measures to preserve life.
That's right.
That end up not being productive in the long term.
Right.
And Mariah is correct. There's such a stigma in our society because we've medicalized it and we've pathologized it and we've medicated it instead of actually trying to reach into that root and bring wholeness to someone. And it sounds like the transpersonal psychology is something that's really trying to bring that wholeness back.
Yes.
And is it a newer program, or
well,
has it been around a while? And we just don't know?
Transpersonal psychology came out of humanistic psychology, like in the 70s, as kind of a backlash to like behaviorism and all that kind of stuff. So it has its roots in that piece of wholeness. And we also just kind of sit with the concept of you are already whole. And so the healing process is just you're coming into awareness and alignment with your own fullness.
And so then it actually really does align perfectly with what you're doing in spiritual work with the divine feminine.
Yes.
And drawing all these pieces, parts together.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Mariah says, I think we as a culture are just starting to rediscover that the separation of mind, body, spirit is false and very unhelpful.
Yeah. I agree with you, Mariah. What do you think, Mara?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like when we did with the triple goddess, we were looking at it from different perspectives, right? From I, thou, and she, you know, the whole, the one that is. And I think one of the key issues is our feeling separate and disconnected, right? And that goes to our ecological issues, you know, our health issues, mental health issues, all these things. So body, mind, spirit, they really are one.
Right.
They are different
system.
aspects or expressions of one system, right? Yeah. And I believe that our bodies are organs of consciousness. That's what they are. They're organs of consciousness, you know, that are part of a larger multidimensional self, you know, and part and parcel. And so it's, yeah, absolutely. But if you're coming at it from a perspective of, you know, just physiological, biological, and then the mind, and then the brain, or with the assumption that the brain is generating consciousness, rather than the brain is in consciousness, you know, or the brain is a receiver of consciousness,
which means
processor.
Science still has no conclusive opinions on consciousness.
Exactly.
So it's silly to it's baffling to me how many people who claim to be, you know, skeptics or science-based realists or whatever, will focus on the brain as the seat of consciousness when we really don't have any conclusive evidence that that's the case.
No, we really don't.
But they take that as their starting assumption, and then they build everything off of that.
Yep.
Right.
So, yeah.
Exactly. Which just, I think, maybe leads to larger false assumptions and kind of discounts.
So it's just a cascade.
And discounts the possibility that the brain could actually be receiving consciousness from a completely different source.
Yeah.
Well, it's that masculine feminine too, right? So a male brain is about projecting, right? Creating and, you know, like projecting, putting out there, and receiving, which is undervalued, which is more on the feminine, right? Of receiving consciousness, you know, receiving ideas, receiving thoughts, you know, receiving rather than I made this, you know, and here we go. And of course, they're both right. They're both true.
Right.
It's all and.
They're both functional and useful.
Yes, and.
Exactly. I really liked in your class too about how you explained the different perspectives and how your perception changes when you're looking at things from a different angle. You know, like I'm sorry, you're gonna have to remind me again. The I, thou, and she. And it really does change your whole outlook when you just shift. It can be just a minor shift, but it enlarges your scope of understanding. And I think that's something that's important. I think it's something that's missing in our lives in a lot of ways. I think we're all sometimes so focused on the I, we forget about not only the thou, but the she, and how it is all interconnected.
That's right.
Yeah. Very cool. So, Mara Evenstar, we thank you for joining us.
Thank you for your time.
How can
on this
people
busy
find you?
day?
How can they find me? Well, you can find me via the Evenstar's Chalice webpage. So it's evenstars.chalice.com. More about me and the specific work I do, both counseling, the group work, and the different things, is on my personal website, which is aramai.com, which is ARAMMAI.com, which is really I am Mara backwards. So I can't remember.
That's nice. I like that.
Nice.
So,
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you for taking the time. I know it's been a busy weekend for you with teaching and vending, but we appreciate you taking this time to sit and share your perspective and your knowledge.
Well, thank you for the invitation, and I really appreciate it. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, and thank you guys for hanging out with us.
Yes.
Oh, it looks like
we're asking
Mariah.
questions.
Question.
Mara. It's not a question. It's a comment.
The comment.
Mara's observing spectrum rather than dichotomy in all things.
Yes.
So
Absolutely. Okay, guys, thank you for joining
I'm gonna
us.
let you go.
And we will see you maybe later. I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
tentatively.
This
We've
is-
got a few other things tentatively scheduled.
Yeah,
So,
this is the last
We'll let you know.
day, so we'll let you know. Just kind of keep an eye out for us.
all right. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.